This man cannot remain in power.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. My name's AJ and I'm here to talk about the 3 wars that the United States has launched against Russia. And I'm going to tell you which of the wars that United States is winning and which one is won by Russia. So the first war that the United States has launched against Russia is actually the propaganda war. And this war United States is winning. As you can see, with all of the mainstream media, the public, everybody is thinking that Russia has gone into Ukraine with no reason whatsoever. They're killing loads of Ukrainians for no apparent reason whatsoever. And you see all of these TikTokers and Instagrammers, they're completely brainwashed and blindsided. Nobody's asking any questions. Nobody's asking why Russia's gone in. Nobody's even talking about what's happened in 2014, about the coup, about the color revolution, the fact that Ukraine has got no democracy, the fact that NATO is pushing this war, Americans are pushing this war. And it could have easily stopped if NATO said that Ukraine would not be allowed to join NATO, even if Ukraine had said that, or Ukraine had been a neutral country. As you can see with the latest press conference, Biden wants regime change. So if Biden wants regime change in Russia, this is why Russia has gone into Ukraine, and he's been proved right. Because if USA wants regime change in Russia, Russia's going to be looking after its own security. They're going to think, okay, America's coming for us. We don't want any weapons or nuclear weapons in Ukraine that's going to be pointing directly at us, so we're going to go into Ukraine and turn Ukraine into a neutral country. Russia has gone into Ukraine because of its security concerns, and people that say NATO is a defensive alliance, it's not a defensive alliance. Look what NATO did to Yugoslavia, bombed it to smithereens. Look what NATO did to Libya, bombed it to smithereens. And NATO is expanding right to Russia's borders. And all Russia wanted was security guarantees that it's not going to go directly to its borders, because NATO is aggressive. Now it's targeting China as well. So you see, NATO is expanding. It's going to go straight to the east as well. So what Russia is doing, it's for its own concerns, own security, for not just for Russia, but for Russian people. And a lot of people in the West don't realize that, because the West has got a narrative, Russia evil, USA good, and that's the story that this propaganda is showing. CNN is actively bringing in Azov battalions, but people don't really tell you that Azov are a neo-Nazi group. They're full of Nazis. And if anybody brings up the Nazi problem in Ukraine, then the BBC or CNN or any other news channel quickly dispel that myth by saying Zelensky is a Jew, so them being Nazis doesn't make any sense. Well, it does make sense, because Zelensky is not only a Jew, but he's also a puppet. And people forget, in World War II days, a lot of Jews were betraying each other and getting other Jews killed because they wanted to stay alive. Sometimes you got to look at Zelensky's bank account. He's got 1.3 billion in there. He's got a mansion in Florida for 35 million. Where did he get all this money from? Not from his wages from Ukraine. This is given by the United States and the West in general, and to use him as a puppet. And this is why he's sacrificing the whole of Ukraine to every last drop of Ukrainian blood. And he would do it. He doesn't care if every single Ukrainian dies in Ukraine, because he's safe. As long as him and his little buddies are safe, and as long as he's got the money, that's all he cares about. There's so many people dying in Ukraine. I've seen videos where there's so many dead Ukrainian soldiers, so many dead bodies everywhere. And the West is not going to show that. West is going to say that Ukraine is winning, Russia is losing, Russia is turning back, Russia's made significant losses, Russia's lost so many generals. West is painting this picture like Russia is losing. Russia is not losing. Russia is surrounding cities and attacking cities from a distance using shells or rockets. You know, Russia is not going close. They're not doing guerrilla warfare or anything like that. They are surrounding these cities and they are slowly advancing, slowly cutting weapons, food, ammunition from the Azov militia and getting them to surrender. But then you see videos about Ukrainian soldiers shooting Russian soldiers, and you know, shooting them in the leg, shooting them in the back, and it's quite disgusting. And that stuff is not reported in the West. The only thing reported in the West is Russia blowing up schools or blowing up hospitals, when it's not the case. I mean, Azov militia are using those positions to attack Russian soldiers, and this is why Russia attacks those places. And you have the mayor of Mariupol telling all the citizens to throw Molotov cocktails at the Russian soldiers and troops. That's also inviting firepower, and that's also going to make more civilian deaths. So I want to show you a clip that's going around. It's from a channel called historic_ly, so make sure you check that channel. I will also put it in the description. And yeah, so I just want to show you this clip. It just shows the reality on the ground compared to what CNN reports. And CNN, basically, you got a real life Azov militant coming onto CNN who's a real Nazi, and then you got real life stories of what's happening in Mariupol and other cities as well. So I just want to show you.
Четко и ясно. Нас обстреливала украинская армия, украинские батальоны. Мэр города Мариуполя Бойченко в открытую призывал делать коктейли Молотова и бросать в российских военных.
Take a listen to what he sent us a day ago.
People are cooking food in the streets, risking their lives under the continuing shellings.
Все аптеки перебиты, все магазины, все везде перебито. Они приезжают, среди дворов ставят автоматы, вернее, эти пулеметы, вот эти непонятные, я не знаю, вот этих я не могу ответить.
A Ukrainian military commander who's been defending the city from the siege.
Ну, я хотела сказать четко и ясно. Нас обстреливала украинская армия, украинские батальоны. Мэр города Мариуполя Бойченко в открытую призывал делать коктейли Молотова и бросать в российских военных.
Take a listen to what he sent us a day ago.
People are cooking food in the streets, risking their lives under the continuing shellings.
Все аптеки перебиты, все магазины, все везде перебито. Они приезжают, среди дворов ставят автоматы, вернее, эти пулеметы, вот эти непонятные, я не знаю, вот этих я не могу ответить конкретно, какие снаряды. Но факт тот, что они приехали во дворах, там, где школы, там, где люди. Они оттуда вас стреляют, я не знаю, мне просто нет слов.
And the temperature is -5 degrees Celsius in the street. Killing the civilian, the amount of victims grows every day.
Никаких коридоров. Азов, сука, выезжали люди, Азов, блядь, расстреливал пидорасы, сука. Что Азов делал? Расстреливал колонны, блядь, мирных, нахуй, пытались выезжать на Володарск, расстреливали автобусы, блядь.
Now it is more than 3,000, but nobody knows the exact amount because people are buried together in the same tomb with no names.
Украинская армия не помогала вам?
Украинская армия стреляла
Many bodies are just outside the streets without being buried. Some of people are under the ruined buildings buried alive. Ukrainian army is trying to help civilians with food and water.
У нас нету ни связи, ни воды, ни тепла. У нас ничего нету, мы ничего не знаем. По слухам, нам сказали, что там вывозят, там есть коридор. Наш двор какой-то, как будто медом намазан. Вот приедут, постреляют, отъедут. Потом опять приедут, обстреляют, едут. Как же его считать? Мы как же его считали? Что нас спрашивают, что мы хотим? Мы хотим мира.
But it's not enough. There is no safety places for people in Mariupol.
Люди бедные, те, которым у них нечем выехать, у них нету транспорта. Мы уезжали, они плакали, они рыдали. Им просто нету транспорта, нечем выехать. Выезда никакого официального нет. Мы на свой страх и риск. Вот, нам сказали, что можно сегодня выехать. Мы собрались в 2 секунды. Самое необходимое, вот так вот позакидывали в машину и поехали.
The missiles of the enemy are attacking the houses and people are dying in their beds.
Это в одном только доме.
Почему вы раньше не выехали?
А нас никто не выпускал.
Моя соседка забрала маму свою с 23-го микрорайона. Сказали, что да, они зашли, 2 девятиэтажки, они полностью людей выселили и сами туда заселились. Люди с пакетами поуходили все, со слезами на глазах, искать какие-то себе убежища.
Скажите, где?
Как украинские военные к вам относились, украинские военные?
Там, уже я рассказывала, как. Зверски, понимаете?
Можно несколько примеров повторить?
Ну как, смотрите, нет еще русских ребят, нет никого, да?
Да.
Заперли нас в подвалы, и вот это над нами, в домах.
So you see, there's a huge amount of propaganda out there, huge amount of fake news out there, and the Western media, Western politicians are following a set narrative, and they're also brainwashing all of the youngsters who are believing that Russia's gone in there for no reason, and they're also being fed stories, fake stories, not real stories on the ground. And I believe America is winning this propaganda war, and they've always won the propaganda war. They've always been good at it ever since the Iraq war, all of these wars, even the Vietnam war. You know, they made all of the Americans, stand up and be happy for the Vietnam War. But then once the bodies start coming back, you see in all of these protests all over America saying, no, I don't want to go to Vietnam because I don't want to be killed. But you see, America's always been good at propaganda, and they control most of the West. They control most of the governments in the West. Most of the Western leaders are puppets. And, there is no such thing as freedom of press or freedom of expression. And if you're a press and you want to talk about a different point of view, you get shut down, like RT has been shut down. If you're a journalist and you want to have your own independent views or try and get the truth out, then you get put in jail, like Assange. So there's no press freedom in the West. You either go with the narrative, or you go to jail, or you get shut down, whichever one comes first. The second war the United States has launched on Russia is the economic war. And unfortunately, this is the one that United States is losing at, and they're losing quite badly. They wanted the Russian ruble to collapse. It hasn't collapsed. The ruble has actually come back very strong after the initial shock of the sanctions, and is clawing back to its original gains. And now Russia's going to be selling its oil and gas in rubles, and that's going to strengthen the ruble even more, and probably going to be more strengthened than it ever was. It's going to also internationalize the ruble, and other countries like China, Iran, Venezuela will trade with Russia with their own currencies, and India as well. And the whole world has actually looked at what America has done to Russia by sanctioning Russia, the central bank, banning them from SWIFT, and every single country is looking at America thinking, oh, this could happen to us one day, so we need to find alternatives. So the whole world is pretty much looking at alternatives now, and Americans might think they're winning this economic war, but they are definitely losing. Russian ruble is back to where it was. They haven't sanctioned Russia, they've actually sanctioned themselves, and the only people that are going to be suffering are the Europeans. They have really shot themselves in the foot. And if Europe suffers, if Europe economy goes down, then American economy is going to go down as well, because there's a huge amount of interdependencies with each other. The dollar is going to go down as a reserve currency because other countries are going to start using their own currencies. They're going to start using the yuan, the ruble also. If Russia insists on all of the unfriendly countries to use ruble for gas and oil, then the ruble will be very strong. So you see, I don't see America winning this economic war at all. And the people that are losing are the Americans and the Europeans. The people in America, they're suffering hugely from high inflation, cost of living. There are so many economic problems in America, so many economic problems in Europe, and that's just going to get worse and worse. The inflation is going to get higher and higher. The gas prices and oil prices are getting higher, and Russia is winning, China is winning, and this is one war United States cannot win. And finally, United States has launched a proxy war against Russia, which means they are giving Ukrainians all of the weapons, all of the money they need to fight Russia. And this is a way of fighting Russia without any American soldiers being killed or Americans wasting too much money. Because if America goes to war with Russia, obviously it could lead to nuclear war. So they're using Ukraine, they're using Ukrainian people as human shields, and they will fight this war to every last drop of Ukrainian blood. Unfortunately, all of the Ukrainians have been led up the garden path by their puppet leader, Zelensky. If Zelensky was a good leader, he would have stopped this war before it even started. He would have said, okay, we agree, we're not going to join NATO, we understand Russia's security concerns, but he has not got any say in what happens in Ukraine whatsoever. It's been run by neocons, it's been run by people like Nuland, who are telling Zelensky what to do. And you can see from Zelensky's press conferences where he's behind a green screen, he's just a paid actor, a very, very well paid actor. He's got 1.3 billion in his bank account, and this was confirmed by the Pandora reports, and this is open source on the internet. He's also got 35 million mansion in Florida, so he's a very, very well paid actor, and he used to be an actor and a comedian in Ukraine, so he was a perfect choice. And he's also Jewish as well. So whenever the issue about Azov militants come up or neo-Nazis come up, the best way for any of these reporters or news channels is say Zelensky is a Jew, so that disproves any Nazism in the country. Well, it's not true, and I'll show you what I mean. This is an example.
Vladimir Putin has given several reasons for his invasion of Ukraine. This is one of them.
We will be aiming at demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine.
At a recent Putin rally, a banner declared for a world without Nazism. And Putin has described a gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis who settled in Kiev and took the entire Ukrainian people hostage. But Russia's claims about Nazis in Ukraine are a mix of falsehoods and distortions. For a start, Ukrainians are not being held hostage by Nazis. Their president's Volodymyr Zelensky. He's Jewish. He has relatives who died in the Holocaust. And he's president because he won 73% of the vote in 2019.
Thanks to Richard Medhurst for that clip. So, as you can see, the first thing that the BBC guy does to disprove any Nazism in Ukraine, he says President Zelensky is a Jew. And this is used all over the West, basically, to disprove any Nazism, disprove any neo-Nazis or Azov militants. And it goes to show this is why Zelensky was chosen as a puppet, because they know there is a neo-Nazi problem in Ukraine, and they picked the perfect president to run the country. And there are also clips about Victoria Nuland actually mentioning what leader they're going to pick to run Ukraine after the 2014 coup. So after the Colour Revolution, there was loads of clips going around, and there's a clip where Victoria Nuland said, you know, what leader should we pick for Ukraine? And again, the people have no choice in Ukraine. There's no democracy in there. It's all run by all of these neocons, Victoria Nuland, and I wouldn't be surprised if Victoria Nuland actually tells Zelensky what to do. So you got the proxy war started by America. America's given loads of weapons to Ukraine, and so is the collective West. A lot of the Europeans, NATO countries are giving weapons, and now Germany has even started giving weapons to Ukraine. What they want is all the Ukrainian people to use those weapons and to kill as many Russian troops and destroy as many Russian military as possible. And this is one proxy war that they are not going to win long term, because this is what's going to happen. You know, it's going to happen similar to Afghanistan and Iraq. You will have a lot of these militias and criminals are going to end up with these weapons, and they're going to be selling it in the black market to make money. They'll be selling it to terrorists. They'll be selling it to ISIS. They'll even use it for themselves for criminal activity, and that will destabilize Ukraine even more. And it's just going to be bad news, and you're going to have all of these weapons flying around Ukraine, anti-aircraft missiles. And once there is peace and everything is back to normal, what about the weapons? Who's gonna is someone gonna return all of those anti-aircraft missiles? No, those anti-aircraft missiles are gonna be still hanging around. They'll end up in the wrong hands. Some people will use it for terrorism. They'll be spread all over the world. And after the war, Ukraine is going to be very, very poor, and people will want to make money, so they'll sell these weapons. They'll sell it to people in the wrong hands. They'll sell it to terrorists. And can you imagine a terrorist with an anti-aircraft missile? And it could be a danger not only to Ukraine but to the rest of the world. And terrorism is not dead yet. There is still a lot of terrorism out there. There's still a lot of people gunning for the West, gunning for America. And if they can get their hands on these anti-aircraft missiles, they can go to any part of the world and use them in any airlines that's flying around. So it's very, very dangerous. The Americans and the Europeans might think they're winning this proxy war, but long term they are going to lose severely. They're going to seriously lose this war, and if this continues the way it is. This is really bad also because they're also putting a lot of civilians in harm's way. They're using the Ukrainian civilians. They're actively telling them to throw Molotov cocktails at the Russians. And what are Russians going to do? They're obviously going to fire back. They're obviously going to kill these civilians. They're not going to have any trust, and they're going to kill anyone that comes near them. And this really is the worst tactic ever. This proxy war is gonna fail big time. I don't see any way where this can be a winner for the United States or the West in any way possible. So as a summary, they are losing their proxy war, they are losing their economic war, however they are winning the propaganda war. So I guess something's better than nothing for the West. But everybody knows the propaganda war, truth always comes out in the end. Truth always came out in Iraq. Truth came out in Afghanistan. Truth came out in Syria. Truth came out in Libya. People were actually clamoring for Libya, saying that Gaddafi was giving his troops, Viagra for mass rapes. In Iraq, they were talking about WMDs, and then in Syria, they were saying Assad was using gas on his people. All of these claims came false end of the day. All of them came false, and eventually truth will come out in Russia as well. So eventually I would see them losing the propaganda war, but however, they are winning now. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe for the algorithm. It really helps. And also, I love reading your comments, so make sure you leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Thanks a lot. See you soon.